Hi, my name is Edwin Bruno, CVO and CEO at Smart Africa Group, where we unlock people and organizations' growth. Today, I'm privileged to host Echo Podcast, whereby it's an executive podcast series whereby we unlock and we'll be doing discussion about innovation and technology. And today, I'm privileged to host one of Smart Africa Group directors, whereby he is a director of SmartLab, Mr. Larry. Larry, welcome to Executive Echo.
Thank you for having me, Edwin.
We know that SmartLab have been dealing with innovation. It's been one of the pioneers in the ecosystem. And since today our podcast is talking about innovation and innovation around the labs, so we feel privileged to welcome you, Mr. Larry. And maybe if you can introduce yourself so that our audience from Echo Podcast can actually try to understand who is Larry, what is Larry doing, and everything in between.
Thank you for having me, Edwin. So I had SmartLab, an innovation hub, a subsidiary of Smart Africa Group. But just to speak about a bit of my career journey to where I am until the fact that I'm actually in the innovation space, I'm usually fascinated with change and doing things in a new way. And this started way back during my when I was growing up and seeing my father doing business in a different way. And he used to do coffee business. And by then, the business was to buy raw coffee beans and take them to processors, take them to the stock market of coffee, and it's sold. But then my father saw a gap in cherry. Cherry is coffee beans, but those that are usually the raw ends that people usually don't buy. And that's when he started doing it differently. He saw the value in the cherries. He started buying cherries in mass production, and he then brought to the fact that the prices of cherry began to grow because of the production of cherries, and then even the market started seeing value in the cherry production. Then he started taking me into his business and seeing how he does the business models. Then I saw, okay, so there are different ways of doing different things, and still you can bring in value. Then when doing my university, during that I did engineering. I specialized in industrial engineering, where I did textiles. Mm-hmm. Most people, when they hear about textiles, they think of clothing.
Clothing, yeah. That's what
it's mostly what comes up in the mind, but
yes.
Textile is very wide. What inspired me to do textiles, it was a professor called Professor Maikambo in the University of Dar es Salaam. He was the pioneer of textiles, and he came up with a very good story of how textiles change people's lives. And textile, not just as fabric, but things that are very well tailored, from just a simple yarn.
The details.
What we call, the simple yarns, the details from just a cotton fiber to what this cotton fiber could do. And things like Kevlar, where you get bulletproofs. Things like, these days they fabricate human organs that can be replaceable. These are made from textiles. Airplane wings, the composite materials are actually coming in from textiles. Mm-hmm. So he started fascinating and said, okay, there's a new way of seeing things. Mm-hmm. So again, it's always about new things for me. Then I said, okay, let me jump into textiles. So during that journey, I learned a lot. We did a lot of projects then. Yeah. And then started my career with in actually running some production lines in some industries in here in Tanzania. But I was very privileged to work with experts from India that brought a lot of new technologies. And I worked in one of the most biggest projects that was done in UK, where they were fabricating the larynx. These are actually parts that you change when people have problems with their vocal cords. Okay. So we did that. And I saw so people would think of textile as clothing, but we are actually using the same fibers to make new stuff. And that's why, and I kept doing that until this is where now the journey started changing. Around 2015, I was approached to actually join the army, and they needed experts in textiles.
Okay.
So I did, we were consulting. I had a team of other colleagues who were consulting for the army. It was quite a journey.
Yeah.
And this is where I started seeing how innovation really needs not just new things,
Yeah.
but also leadership.
Yeah.
Because the leadership that brought in innovation, that wanted the innovation to come into the army,
Yeah.
were the ones who drove that vision and brought us to that as a team and said, you know what, we want the army to do things in a new way, and we want the Tanzanian army to also be, the defense forces to also have innovative solutions in how they do things.
Yeah.
So that's how we joined, and down the line, it's a long story, but down the line, during the COVID era, that's when I really now delved into products management.
Yeah.
And so since then, I started working fintechs. I worked in products development of various kinds, software as a service, very many other products that had digital aspects within it. And that's how my journey started in the innovation space and knowing how startups work, the business models, and things like that, and connecting both the new way of doing things to the old ways. And then I saw value with that. That's how I'm driving myself up the ladder of innovation.
I think, Larry, it's an interesting story and a journey with insights. With that story, it's bring a lot of, you can actually see details and the value differentiator in every industry. When you talk about, the cherry industry, the way there have been processes,
Yes.
up to the production. When you talk about, the fabrications, I thought maybe it's more about clothing, but I can see someone can innovate something around a bulletproof. I think it's coming from that. Someone can do that, but of course venture into innovation for medicine because the fiber can do that.
True.
And when you talk about, I think, military, most of the innovation actually starts from the military era. I remember us when we were studying the innovation of the internet. This guy called Steve Berners-Lee, the inventor of WWO, the internet, which the internet started actually from the army. I believe even sometimes when I watch movie and I see in the military they do XYZ, I know that thing. It's already exists. It's just it's not for public yet. And public, the internet and the innovation, some of it, even in transportation, you say like NASA going to the Mars, it's something which become commercial, but we know in the army they have a lot of innovation. So your deeper understanding and that processes of the army, I know you guys, you are making it very private. We are not allowed to know the process, but there is a process, and it's all about how are we going to make that process as a commercial so that the mass and the community can actually venture into it. And of course, you talk about the COVID era, which within that, a lot of things have actually changed. People, they managed to change the way of thinking. When we say about digital, actually, I think COVID accelerated the digital and people accepting the change. Because sometimes change need to have a little bit of force.
Crisis.
A crisis.
Every crisis is where innovation comes
in between. And to talk about working with startup, product management, project management. And I think when you talk about startup, I understand, especially on our continent, especially in East Africa, or we go deeper into Tanzania, it's something new. When something is new, I mean there should be some people which at least we need to unpack these different things. And I know, of course, SmartLab have been working, starting with the university, pushing the corporates also to coming in, doing accelerator, not just for impact, but also for business to have like a business continuity. And when you look back and when you look now and where we are going in terms of now the innovation, and you as a director at SmartLab working on the innovation lab, you have been interacted with a different sector and different collaborators. Where are we? Or maybe if you can give us a short story so that our audience, which they don't know anything, or maybe they have an idea about Innovation Hub. What is Innovation Hub? Where are we coming? Where are we now? And what is the future for the next opportunities?
Yes. So if we may begin, it's simply by just even defining innovation by itself. It's way back since the 19th century. That's when innovation was part of of the talk of the town by then, where we saw in the US around Silicon Valley, that's where the growth of Silicon Valley. Simply innovation is what I would term it in my way as a function of vision.
Yeah.
Creating capacities of doing new approaches, untested ways
Yeah.
in solving old problems.
Yeah.
Old and new problems. So with that, innovation hubs came into the part that they were to create a platform to support. So innovation hubs basically these are physical places where people can actually go in and get support.
Yeah.
So in a matter of fact, innovation hubs are platforms that create, connect, and support both creators, innovators, researchers in actually getting new approaches of doing the new norm. Now, with that, I would say our ecosystem, the Tanzanian ecosystem, has come in from quite a long journey, and now we are seeing a lot of traction coming in. Our ecosystem is growing big times. There are a lot of innovation hubs now growing. The latest reports from the Tanzania Startup Association show that there are at least around 136 or 136 innovation hubs and ecosystem support organizations that are already in present, and they're actually offering several services. Key features or the key objectives of these innovation hubs is to promote technology and technology transfer. And with that, there are a lot of other functions in between: the issues of talent, the issues of collaboration, outreaches, the issues of acceleration and investment. All these come in as part of hub services.
Yeah.
So the hub ecosystem is growing, and we are seeing it having quite a good traction here in Tanzania now. Our fellows in Kenya are also growing. They have been thriving big times. Our investment funding is also, although last year's numbers were down, but we know that they're actually coming up. It's just a matter of time. It's always about the aspect of time. Yeah. So in summary, innovation hubs are there to cater and support for the vision. As you have said, SmartLab actually key mission is to actually create, connect, and support these innovators in the ecosystem.
Yeah. And of course, we know most of our listeners, and especially for this podcast as an eco podcast, which will be speaking mostly with the executive, which means there are other people who want to learn and understand. Most of the people, and I understand from the listener's point of view, when they hear innovation, when they hear hubs, the one thing which comes in their mind is Silicon Valley. Yeah, but so now we are in Tanzania, or maybe we are in Africa, we're in East Africa. Do we need to go to Silicon Valley to be innovative? Or because I understand, even Silicon Valley is just a location like Tanzania. It was a place maybe just few people who believe in something, and maybe other people, they didn't see it, they created something. So for us in Tanzania, for innovators to believe that this is the Silicon Valley within the ecosystem, what kind of the area which they need to look into, and what are the opportunities? Because we have a lot of other innovators and entrepreneurs, they are listening to the cast, and they want to understand what is the innovation ecosystem and what are the opportunities which are there, and what they should be doing in order to join the likes of SmartLab.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier on, several innovation hubs have focused in offering several aspects of services that are actually catering, as I said, to the building of the vision of an innovator.
Yeah.
So the many areas that we are looking at, I'll give you a very good specific example coming in from SmartLab, is where we started to where we have gone to the number of services we're now providing. Is we started actually in the understanding of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
The ecosystem includes both the service providers together with the startups ecosystem, and each one of them came up with different aspects of needs. But with them, there was a missing gap of knowledge or awareness of what innovation is. What are the features of innovations? Why should I turn my new approach called as an innovative approach or a disruptive approach.